Good afternoon, and welcome to the annual meeting of Medicon Valley Alliance 2021. It's wonderful to see you all. Almost a full room here. I hope you enjoyed the lunch. I hope you already had the opportunity to network. That's what today is all about. Not the lunch, but definitely the networking. A lot of exciting speakers, both on stage and virtually. Later we will at least see two speakers calling in from the US. We've all gotten used to that during the last 2 years. So that's still cool, but it's also cool to see all of you here. So let's have a great afternoon, networking, new knowledge, and hopefully putting a new direction to our collaborations in the months and years to come. After the hello, we will start with a goodbye. Our CEO in the last 6 years, Peter, can I see you on stage? Let's get Peter Hartmann a hand. Peter, it's been a pleasure. Let me start there. We've worked closely together for now more than 6 years. Me, like any of you who have interacted with you over the last 6 years, I think can characterize you with a lot of passion, diligence, energy, a positive approach, and not the least, sort of a championship for the region and the life science sector in the region. And we will all thank you, we have all thanked you for that. In Medicon Valley Alliance, you have done a tremendous work. Over these 6 years, you have been able to, together with a lot of you, bring more than 250 million Danish kroner in external funding to the region. That's fantastic. That deserves an applause, I think. As we'll talk about today later, funding is a key sort of parameter in our industry. You have, together with the team, arranged meetings that has seen almost 8,000 participants. That's also a great number. And you have, and I think that's important, together with the organization, driven the membership number in Medicon Valley Alliance from almost 200 now to well beyond 300. And I think that's really an achievement. So, Peter, from all of us to you, a great thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think, thanks. I don't know if you can hear me. The microphone is on. Yes, thank you so much, Søren, for your kind words. I'm touched, I have to say. I think it has been a fantastic journey, and I have enjoyed every single minute, Søren, since I started. It has been such a pleasure to work with the professional team and with the board of directors who have supported me all the way, and it's been a fantastic journey. And I've learned so much, and I'm sure I will be able to use these experiences I've gained over the last 6, actually 7 years since I started at MBA in my new position as the CEO of Medicon Village Innovation in Lund. And I'm really happy, Søren, that we will be able to meet on a regular basis also in Lund, since you have your everyday business at Alligator Bioscience there. So I look forward to be part of this network, fantastic network, also in the years to come. Now I'm just a member like the rest of you, and I will use this membership wisely and network and enjoy this fantastic day. I think it's a great program. And I would like to finish up with also wish Anette the best of luck. I know you're the right person. This is a perfect match. So I feel 100% sure that Medicon Valley Alliance will develop positively also during the coming years. So thank you once again, and I look forward to stay in touch with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And as Peter rightly mentioned, Medicon Valley Alliance has gotten a new CEO. Anette sits down there. You'll see much more to Anette later. Anette will be on the stage in just a couple of minutes. But for now, Sarah, will you lead us through today's proceedings?
Yes, I will. It's a great pleasure to do so. Thank you so much, Søren. Hi, everyone. It's really good to see all of you in the room and not on little boxes on screen. My name is Sarah Lede. I'm a Senior Strategy and Project Manager at MBA, and I will be your moderator today. So we have a really exciting program lined up for us. But before we do that, I have some small housekeeping information just to make sure that all of us get the most out of today. Now, MBA is going digital and sustainable for the first time. You realize that we don't have any printed programs. Everything is going to be on your phone. So I'd like to ask everyone, you actually have permission to take out your phone, open up your camera app, and you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or you have it at the back of your name tag. So just hover your camera app over the QR code for a while. You should see a link pop up. Click on the link, and what you should see appear in the browser on your phone looks like this, where you should get access to the program for the day. Really important for me as a moderator, we would love to see a lot of questions from you. So if you tap on the Q&A section, you're able to ask questions to our speakers there. You can also look at all of our fantastic speaker profiles. You can search among the people in the room who are around, company, name of participant in the attendee section. You see the profiles of the fantastic sponsors we have today, and also a little bit about who we are as an organization. So make full use of the mobile platform in front of you in your phone. Please note that today's event is not live streamed, but it will be recorded so that all of us can enjoy the proceedings after the fact. And take note as well that you will receive a post-event survey after the event. We really appreciate if you could give some feedback so that we can improve on future events at MBA. So, I hope that you've had a good cup of coffee or tea and filled up on some sandwiches and bagels, because we have a really rich afternoon in front of us. We will start off with a word from Anette talking about the state of Medicon Valley. Where are we today, 2021? And then we will go into some of the pillars that we've had at MBA's annual meeting for the past few years. We normally divide them into infrastructure, investment, and innovation. So at 1 o'clock, we'll talk about the framework conditions for life science and innovation. We'll then go into a section on attracting investments, or the importance of funding for the industry. And then we'll look into innovation from the perspective of clinical research and public-private partnerships. And then I would really encourage us to stay for a very interesting and final keynote presentation by Dr. Robert Langer, who will be streaming live from MIT, who will share his thoughts with us on creating and implementing breakthrough technologies. You do not want to miss that. So, really rich program. And let's start off with the state of Medicon Valley. So it's my great pleasure to invite on stage Anette Steenberg, our new CEO of Medicon Valley Alliance, to bring us into the state of Medicon Valley. Anette, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you, Søren, also for the warm welcome. And a big thank you to you personally, Peter, from the great handover. You really set the bar extremely high, and I'll do my utmost to see if I can follow your path. But I know, thanks God, you are staying in the close stakeholder sphere, so we'll continue our collaboration going forward. And then a warm welcome to all members, great stakeholders, good collaboration partners. It's a great honor and a huge privilege for me to be here on my week 2 and meeting all of you live. It's wonderful that we have the option now to meet live, and I hope you'll enjoy this day with a lot of network and some insightful information and talks. I have the pleasure to present our analysis that we are making together with Øresundsinstituttet, and a big thank you for Søren, I don't know where, there you are, and your wonderful team for this very good collaboration we have every year, where we identify some highlights and we select a special theme. This year, the theme is the beacon of Medicon Valley, and I'll get to that a little later. You are welcome to take a hard copy. They're outside if you wish. Otherwise, you're also welcome to download it on our homepage, of course, free of charge. But right now, I'll show you some of the highlights from the report. There it is. There's no doubt that your sector, the life science sector, is extremely strong and are contributing a lot to the society, both on the Swedish and the Danish side. And despite the fact that we've been going through a crisis, the COVID, where a lot of sectors have really suffered, you cannot see that in life science. It's absolutely incredible. On the other hand, there's actually been a boom in tax contribution and other parts that I'll get into a little later. But here you see there's been an increase both in income taxes and in corporate taxes. There's a big variation of the corporate taxes, but there is a steadily increase year to year. So there's no doubt with 16 billion Swedish kroners and almost 21 billion Danish kroners, this sector contributes to our society. It is a very important sector, not just for the patients, for the research, but for the whole welfare society that we both in Sweden and Denmark value so much and want to continue. Also, exports are extremely continuing to grow. Right now, Denmark is actually the 5th largest exporter in the world per capita, whereas Sweden has also increased to the 10th. And as you can see, the value of the export last year is 143 billion Danish kroners and 88 in Sweden, an increase of 10 or almost 8%. Here you can see which markets are the most important markets, and there's no doubt for both our countries, the US, China, and Germany are the most important export markets. There's no doubt that the US is extremely important for the Danish export, especially I believe it's Novo Nordisk export to the US. But when you look at China, it's interesting to see that both Denmark and Sweden actually almost have the same amount volume-wise of exports to China and has experienced a huge increase on the Swedish side of 26% in just in this 10-year decade. What's really interesting is that during Corona, a lot of sectors were closed down. The life science continued on many parts, but the explanation for why is it that we have experienced such a boom could be that some of the researchers, maybe at universities, they have been staying at home and had time to explore their ideas, write application, and submit them. Because there's no doubt there's been an absolutely explosion in patents submitted last year. What I also find interesting is that the medtech is really escalating. More and more medtech patent is being submitted. Denmark, we still have a lot of pharma, but also from the Danish side, there's a big increase on the medtech side of patents. Now, why do we call beacons of, or who do we call the beacons of Medicon Valley? Well, as mentioned, we have this special focus on an area every year in our analysis, and this year we've chosen the beacons of the Medicon Valley. And the way we define beacons are the companies that employ more than 250 people in the region. So, and that's important for me to stress that it's in the region because these companies, they also employ people a lot of other places around the world. Out of 35 companies, we have 22 of them located here in the region that actually have their global headquarters here. And that's quite amazing. And this is also one of the things that in my previous job at Copenhagen Capacity, we were really trying to draw companies to place their headquarters here, whether, of course, it's global or it's Nordic. But here we're actually talking about 22 companies having their global headquarters here. These 22 beacons, the beacons, they employ more than 33,000 100,000 employees in the region, which is 86% of all employees totally employed. We calculate about 50,000 people in our region. Medicon Valley region covers all of Zealand, so it's Region Zealand, Region Capital, and Region Skåne. Here you can see how the different life science companies are divided into pharma, biotech, medtech, and then an area we sometimes forget that we are actually a global center, the hearing aid area, where we have some of the biggest world companies within hearing aid. Now, how do we as an organization in Medicon Valley Alliance contribute to making sure that this region maintains Northern Europe's most competitive and vital life science cluster region? We do that by strengthening our members' knowledge sharing, network, and collaboration opportunities. We have morning meetings, booth seminars, of which we've been very successful during Corona because we managed to switch them from physical meetings to online meetings very quickly. And we've actually experienced that there's still a very high request to continue having these meetings virtually, even though we can also do them in person now. So we'll probably continue with also having a lot of virtual events. Moreover, we have our networking groups that has not been as active during COVID because networking, as the word networking is, functions best live. We have networking groups within R&D, medtech, microbiome, and oncology. And then we have our executive networking group. And please, if you want to hear more about it, you can find any of us. We have a red name tag afterwards, and please talk about it. And then, of course, we have running events. We participate in different seminars and events that would be of interest to you. And, of course, this national meeting. And as Søren also mentioned, we've actually managed to increase the member base. I think over the past year, despite Corona, despite that we have not been able to meet, we've actually over the past year been able to gain about 10% more members. So we're very proud and very happy to have such a broad membership crowd, both on the Swedish side and on the Danish side. And then, as Søren also alluded to, Medicon Valley Alliance have been very successful in fundraising and project manage a lot of big project groups, projects like the Repo Union, like the Dia Union, of which you can learn a lot more of outside. We have some of my colleagues that are there to tell you about it. And all in all, and as Søren said, we have been able to assist together with a lot of very important collaboration partners that this region has gotten 30 million euros of funding over the last 7 years. And this funding goes to university hospitals, it goes to universities, both Lund, Malmö, Copenhagen, and of course, in a very, very close cooperation with the corporate sector in what our core is, the Triple Helix Corporation. And this is definitely an area we will continue to strengthen. So with this, I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible, and I look forward to a lot of collaboration going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anette. A lot of very good facts and figures about the region in Denmark and Sweden. Now remember, you can ask questions to Anette and any of our speakers on the platform, so make sure you do that. But Anette, so you sit here as CEO of Medicon Valley Alliance, but you're no stranger to the region. You come from Copenhagen capacity. Could you share, what excites you the most about Medicon Valley? And if you were standing here in 10 years, 2031, where do you hope we'll be?
That's a good question, Sarah. Well, my dream is that in 10 years, the border issues we are struggling with will no longer be there. It's the only hindrance I see to an even stronger cooperation than we have already. And I think what I believe is the core in Medicon Valley, and what we at Medicon Valley Alliance are trying to support, is really to create this triple helix cooperation. We are very unique and very good at doing that in the Nordics, and we have a lot to gain from it. And just last week, I was fortunate to listen in to one of the rep reunion talks between scientists from Lund University, Copenhagen University, Rigshospitalet, and Ferring. And even though I probably only understood 40% of what was going on, what I saw was the magic that happens when researchers are meeting with researchers from universities, and hospitals are meeting with researchers from private companies. How you can make 1 + 1 become 3. This is what I believe both Sweden and Denmark are really good at, and this is what we should strengthen even more, especially in Medicon Valley Alliance, where we have so many competencies, both on the public and private side.
Excellent. Yeah. So you can interrogate, or you can discuss with Anette more during the break, so make sure you take the chance to do so. Thank you so much, Anette.
Thank you, Søren. Thank you.
All right, so I hope that has set the framework for what we're about to go into in our next section. We're going to look at the framework conditions for life science and innovation, and we have 3 exciting speakers who present various perspectives on innovation and developments within life science from an outside-in perspective. And again, I'm going to keep nagging all of us. Remember, you can ask questions on our platform. Make sure you do so. Our first speaker for this session is Matthias Ulyan. He is joining us live from Stockholm. I see him in front of me. We'll see him. There we go. Hello, Matthias. Good to see you. You can't see.
Good to be there.
Yeah, you can't see the crowd. I guess I should look there. You can't see the crowd, but we have about 300 plus decision makers and stakeholders from southern Sweden and eastern Denmark, and perhaps even further in this room. So warm welcome. And Matthias, you hold professorships at both the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, also in DTU here in Denmark. You are the founding director of SciLifeLab, a Swedish national research infrastructure aiming to advance molecular biosciences in Sweden. And you're going to share with us a really interesting topic, your experience as a serial entrepreneur in life science. We're really looking forward to it. So take it away, Matthias.
So thank you very much. It's very nice to be there. I wish, of course, that I could be there in person, but for different reasons, I couldn't make it this time. What I thought I would do is to say a little bit about the experience of being a serial entrepreneur. But I will also say a little bit going from the academic research to the business development. And I'm going to say next slide then. So can you move forward? Because yes, okay. So just a little bit about myself. As was said by the chairperson, I'm a professor at KTH, but also at Karolinska. I have been professor for 10 years at DTU. Also been for 15 years now, board member of Novozymes. So I actually have spent a lot of time in Denmark, but also across the bridge to Skåne. So I am very excited to be able to talk to you about this very exciting region. So next slide. So I just want to start by saying that for Sweden, innovation is very important. More than 50% of our gross national product is from export. And we spend a lot of time on R&D in Sweden, more than 140 billion Swedish crowns, which is about 3.4% of the gross national product. Next slide, please. So, and it is also from a commercial point of view very important. This is just the statistics of the trade balance of Sweden, where you compare then the exported income, export and import in Sweden. And what you can see here is the 7 most positive fields when it comes to trade balance. And what is so nice to see here is that bio-based products are very important, as you can see here, as 4 out of the 7 is this, and including then biotech as the 3rd one. And of course, when you look at the trade balance of Denmark, you have a very similar situation, of course, not the forest and paper, but also all the other type of bio-based product. Next slide, please. Also, what is very important is that we have enormous amount of companies that has done an IPO in life science in the last 10 years. And a lot of them has also grown and become unicorns. Unicorns, this is obviously a company worth more than $1 billion in market cap. We have, of course, a fantastic example in Uhlén that just 6 months ago was listed at Nasdaq in New York and has a market cap of about 25 billion Swedish. But you also can see quite a lot of other companies here which has sort of moved up and is unicorns. So next slide, please. This, of course, with the fact that we are witnesses a scientific revolution in medicine is, of course, very exciting. Here you can just see some of the scientific breakthroughs that have occurred, including, of course, the mRNA technologies that was giving us COVID vaccines. We're moving into precision medicine, multi-specific biologicals, and then a lot of data-driven fields like systems immunology and AI, actually. So next slide, please. So with this in mind, this is one of the reasons that I started and directed the Science for Life laboratory in Stockholm, starting about 10 years ago, creating a national infrastructure since technology is evolving rapidly and you need to be able to take care of big data in life science. We started in 2010 and we are now 1,500 researchers. Next slide, please. So before I go into the entrepreneurship, I just want to say a little bit about where I'm coming from. I'm directing a very large project to try to map all the human building blocks of life, and this was sort of celebrated last year, where we've been working in this Human Protein Atlas for 20 years. Next slide, please. So this has led to a lot of publications and so on, and I just here listed some of the publications in the very prestigious journal Science, which then has added different information to the Protein Atlas. Next slide, please. We also have moved into precision medicine, and this is, of course, trying to move into the right treatment to the right patients, not more targeted treatment, and better diagnostic methods. And I'm not going to go into the details of that, just to say, next slide, that we have used the knowledge and the resources from the Protein Atlas then to move into this field, especially with Swedish technology, in particular Olink Explore from Uppsala and Targeted Proteomics from Stockholm, where we are now maybe in a way that has never been done before, and I think rather unique in the world, being able then to map people with different diseases to find markers that can be used in precision medicine. So next slide, please. So I'm just going to end this sort of basic research part to say that I'm extremely proud that we have then created in Sweden one of the most visited biological databases in the world. And we have now more than 800 in-house publications. And actually, these are then cited more than 10 times every day, which is, of course, very nice. But we also have more than 1 million visitors every day that are every year that are visiting our Protein Atlas. But in this effort, which is of course basic research, it's open access, it is not it is not there to make money. We have of course also done startups. So during this journey, we have filed more than 20 patent families. We have started 9 biotech companies, and we actually have 5 human clinical trials ongoing right now, which are sort of coming out of the Protein Atlas. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I also want to say, before I move into the entrepreneurs part, is that this mapping of the human building blocks, we are not alone, but it is interesting to see that a lot of the initiatives come from the United States, and they are funded by IT people, Paul Allen from Microsoft, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, and so on. So this is quite interesting to see that the IT and technology people are moving into this mapping of human building blocks. Next slide, please. So a little bit then, since the theme of this is innovations and business development, I have experience of about 80 patent families. I have started 26 companies, but I'm also have moved in and have been member of the board for quite a few public companies, both in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and England. And obviously this is quite interesting to, on one hand, be on the academic side, doing basic research, and on the other hand, be part of public companies, usually innovative companies, or companies involved in technology. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we started from my group who work a lot on was licensing of innovations. And we actually have licensed 43 of the patent families to different companies, usually companies from abroad. The success rate is very low. Only 3 of these have commercial successes, but we are very proud that one of these innovations have created export income to Sweden of more than $1.5 billion, 15 billion Swedish. And that's the MabSelect Shore, which is used now to purify more or less all the biological antibodies that are used throughout the world for cancer and other treatments. But still, only 3 of the patent families has been commercially success. So therefore, this is not what we are doing in the last years or so. Next slide. So I think I can go to the next slide, please. It's very similar. Next slide. So I am the co-founder of 20 startups. And you can see on the arrows to the left, these are the ones that are startups from the university. And to the right, you can see that 6 of the companies are actually publicly traded. And I'm very proud that these companies have a market cap of more than $4 billion. I thought I would give you a little bit of case studies of these companies and what has happened with them, and then give you a sort of a summary of my experience of these companies. And I can't, of course, go through all of them, but I will just give you some snapshots of 5 of these startups, just for your information then. Next slide, please. So the first company startup I want to talk about is Biotoge. It was named Parasequencing. This was a research project that started a long time ago in 1991. After some proof of concept publications and so on, we founded this company in 1997, got some small seed funding, and then did an expansion of the company, second round VC, and then did an IPO in 2000. This was just before the crash of the stock market in 2001. So we were able actually to get $100 million in cash during the IPO. With that funding, we continued to work on the company. We did some acquisitions, including a company in the US called Biotoge, and we changed name. And then in the end of the day, then in 2021, right now, we have an extremely successful company, which is very different from where we started, but it does have a market cap of $1.6 billion. Next slide, please. Another company that was started much later is Atlas Antibodies. This is a company that were formed to sell the reagents that was created in the university for the Protein Atlas project. This was done very much less in the sort of venture capital way, where we were organically growing this company with the income from the antibodies that we were selling. And already after 3 years, this was a profitable company in 2009. And then we actually then moved on, and actually now has a lot of customers in, I think, more than 100 countries. The market cap of this company now is more than $300 million. Next slide, please. A third company that I just want to mention is very different. This is a company that was originally started when the pandemic came, the COVID pandemic. There was a need in Sweden to do testing, and we got a funding from a non-profit organization, the Wallenberg Foundation, to start COVID testing at the Karolinska in the university setting. We did a lot of, we had a lot of problems with IT integration, and for those of you who are in Sweden, you can read the DN Debatt from yesterday about this. But in the end of the day, the bureaucracy of being in a university was very heavy, and we decided then for about almost exactly 1 year ago, to start a company with the founders then from the universities and start testing in December. This was quite enormous. We had 100 employees starting already in the first month. And then from January, this company was open 7 days a week, and we have then produced actually 1.6 million tests. We're very proud that this diagnostic company then is best in class when it comes to turnaround times, and that we have been able then to help the Swedish government and the regions with testing. Actually, right now we're testing for Skåne and for Umeå, but not the other regions. Okay, next slide, please. A very different, I think you can click one more time. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's perfect. A very different company then, again, a spin out from the university, is a company called Scandinavian Therapeutics, where based on AI, artificial intelligence, we have then designed 4 natural products that are improving mitochondrial dysfunction. And with that, filed a patent, founded a company, and then started clinical trials. And actually right now we've done clinical trials, phase 2 completed for fat liver disease, for Alzheimer's disease, and also completed a phase 3 for COVID patients that you can see to the right here, the difference in the time to symptom if you use the placebo or the drug. And we are now seeing if we can actually introduce this into the market, which is of course quite astonishing since we started the project almost just a year ago. Next slide, please. Finally, I just wanted to say a little bit about a newly started company called Amylonix. This is based on another technology developed in the university called Antibodies. And this company now has 100 employees. But what we have done then is to spin out a second company together with AbbVie called Amylonix for Alzheimer. And basically the idea then is to have binders, second generation binders for beta amyloid, and then start to prepare this for human clinical trials. And this is a collaboration with people in the United States. But again, this is a very small company, completely virtual. All the research is done at the universities. So next slide, please. So with these 5 examples, I just want to finish up by saying a little bit about the lessons that I have learned during these journeys. And I think the most important for me, or at least one of the lessons, is that there is no magical formula when it comes to startups, especially startups for universities. Each journey is unique, but I think what is common is that every startup is a roller coaster ride. It is going up and then down. So this is not for the faint-hearted. You have to then be prepared to work very hard at times, and then maybe a little bit more relaxed at other times. At least in my experience, we have been trying to be, I think it's a good idea to try to be lean as long as possible, that is cost effective, and try to balance income from expenses. This is not so easy. Sometimes it is important to be very fast to the market, and therefore you need to take in venture capital in order to speed up things. But I think it's very important then that you don't take in any venture funding without having a very clear milestone-driven plan. And obviously the venture capital usually requires you to have that, but it's also very good for the founders to have that, because you don't want to end up in what I call the founder dilution problem, that you have to run very fast. You get rid of you spend all your money that you have taken in, and then you have to take second rounds, and in the end of the day the founders have diluted out their share of the company, but it still might be a good company, but the founders have really no shares in it, or very little. One thing that is interesting is soft funding. I know both in the Medicon Valley territory, but also up in Stockholm, where I'm mostly, there is available soft funding. I have not used it a lot. Usually they require quite a lot of bureaucracy, and we're trying to avoid that in these startups. But of course, this is very different from different territories, different countries, and so on. So sometimes, of course, it is good to be able to use soft funding or EU funding even. One thing which is important is sense of urgency. I think it is very important that you move forward as fast as possible, and that both the management and the board are sort of aware of this and are pushing this. And I have seen some examples in Sweden where you have got in money, and then the sense of urgency is maybe not as much as it should be. The last point I want to say, which is maybe a little bit surprising, is that at least in my experience, you have to aim to be number one in a niche. And this could be a geographical niche, but it could also be a product niche. And if it's a small niche, it is you make money. You don't make very much money, but you do make money. If it's a large niche, obviously you can make a lot of money. So obviously this is something that I think is important, at least in my experience. So with that, next slide, I want to I just have 1 minute to go, and I just wanted to then say that we are up, of course, not down in Medical Valley. We're up in Stockholm, where and this is just a beautiful picture of the northern part of the Stockholm city. But obviously we have, and many of the companies and university groups that are here in Stockholm and Uppsala are working a lot with people down in the Medicon Valley region. And me personally, then I have a lot of collaborations with people at DTU, BII, and the Novo Group in general. So very good. I want to end by this and thank you all for your attention, and I hope you will have a successful meeting in coming. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Matthias, for a great presentation. There's a lot of audience engagement. I'm getting a lot of questions, so I'm going to steal another 5 minutes of your time. That's okay.
Yeah,
there's been some interest in the Human Protein Atlas. A question has come from Niels Christian Ganderup. How much money, either in Swedish krona or euros, has been invested into the Human Protein Atlas thus far?
So we have been very fortunate to have one investor, more or less, and that is the non-profit Wallenberg Foundation. They have funded us now for 21 years. And this has gone to about 1,500 person years, and the funding has been around 1.4 billion Swedish crowns. So it's quite a lot of funding. And with that funding, then what we have generated is this open access database with 15 million web pages. So it's quite a lot of data, which is then updated every year. And actually next Thursday, we will have a version 21 of the Protein Atlas with a lot of new features.
And I guess this is publicly available. If we Google after this, the Human Protein Atlas, we can access it?
Yes, absolutely. So this is no restrictions. It is, you can just Google Protein Atlas and you will get there. And every month there is about 400,000 researchers that goes into the Protein Atlas. So we're very happy about it.
Fantastic, Matthias. Also really inspiring to hear your experiences with entrepreneurship, and a couple of questions have come in relating to that. We have a question from Linn Burrison, and she asks, what has been the failure you have learned the most from, and what is your number one de-risking advice?
Well, I think one, of course, failure is, of course, when you're too early and you try to do things before, a little bit too early. There is a couple of the companies that I think we started in the 90s that would have been, or maybe early 2000, that would have been wonderful to start now. But we started them too early. The market was not ready. The technology was not ready. And therefore, you have to realize at one point that this is going, you can't make money on this. Then, of course, venture capital is, of course, very interesting because on one hand, they provide you with funding, but at the same time, they want you to, the speed is very important. And sometimes the founders and the venture capital are not aligned. But I have to say that in most cases, this has not been a very big problem, but sometimes it might be a problem, yeah.
So your choice of funding partner is really crucial to support your strategy.
Absolutely, but also, as I said, to be very careful with your business plans and your so you when you take in money, you know exactly what you want to do with the money, and you actually have that sort of settled with the funders.
We also have another question from Eva Forinas about soft funding. Should soft funding be returned to society to help others become successful?
Well, that's a good question. I think, I mean, most soft fund. I think that the best way for us as researchers to give back to society is to be able to form and develop successful companies that gives you income, export income, and also employment. So I think, in a way, soft funding could, of course, there could be ways to actually give that back. But I think there is very good. I mean, BII has a very good model for this. That the soft funding is risk money, but if there is successful, you can bring it back, and I think that's a very good model actually.
All right.
But I think soft funding should be a complement to what I call the hard funding from the venture capitalist.
And I think that's a really good way to wrap up. We actually have a lot more questions for you, Matthias, but we'll have to take it the next time when you come to Medicon Valley. Hopefully we'll get to see you face to face. Thank you so much for your time, Matthias. One more round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent. So, from Stockholm, we'll now turn to Denmark, and our next speaker is here. And he is Brian Mikkelsen, who is the former Minister for Business, Industry, and Financial Affairs in Denmark, and is now the CEO of the Danish Chamber of Commerce. And Brian will speak about the potential and key framework conditions of the Danish life science sector. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you so much. I was just listening and actually got inspired by the possibilities and potentials in a much better framework conditions, and I will talk about that if we come even closer to each other. So first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm happy to be here at your annual meeting. I've actually been here before. I think it's great that we work together across the sea, and the key to success is when we share our knowledge and have great teamwork. In my organization, the Danish Chamber of Commerce, we love that we are good at working close together, Swedes and Danes. And actually, when I was a minister, and I was there for 13 years, one of my key priorities was getting even closer to Sweden, because I could see that 1 + 1 was not 2, but it was 3 and 4. And it's the same with the topic we talk about today. If we look at the Danish side right now, of course, the Danish economy was shaken during the Corona crisis. All the CEOs was calling me in March and April last year, and it seems like a lifetime ago. They were frustrated, they were nervous. What would the future bring? And there were some of the biggest Danish companies. And looking at the annual reports the last few months, it went totally opposite. The Danish economy is doing fantastic. We had the biggest GDP growth for almost 25 years, and almost all Danish companies are doing very well, except for one sector, and that's across Europe, and that's the tourism sector. So when we look at the Danish export numbers from the darkest time during the crisis, the life sector actually stands out. I think it's safe to say that we can thank the life science sector for saving both our health, look at the innovation, the fast movement of the vaccinations and so on, but also our economy, now that we can finally look forward again after the worst crisis. As you all know, the Danish life science sector plays a very important role in the Danish economy. If we look at the export income, only during 2020, the Danish life science sector earned, and be seated in your seats, earned 151 billion Danish crowns. That's approximately 1/5, exactly 22% of all Danish exports. And that is, of course, very huge numbers. And if we continue like this, if the export numbers continues to grow like we have seen until now, then it means that the total export income from the life science sector could hit 345 billion Danish kroner by 2030. Then it would be responsible for 40% of all Danish exports. That's really impressive. those numbers are crazy. And I think it's clear that our life science sector in Denmark is a cornerstone in our economy. Looking at the history, Denmark and Sweden are actually both life science countries. And the numbers make it clear that we should work hard to keep this position. I really like the thought of living in an area with so many companies that work day after day for a better life and health for people all over the world. But in Denmark, at least, we still need to work hard if we want this sector to keep growing, if we want to see these big numbers in real life in the future. We need hard work, and we need some strong framework conditions, and that's where it all begins. That's the foundation. This implies, first of all, access to qualified labor. That's the biggest challenge right now in Denmark, and we have lots of discussions and arguments with the government about this. And I really hope that we will we will be able and have successful establishing a majority in the parliament, forming a coalition also with the present government, where we could have some better labor potential in lowering the income for what you need to earn in Denmark if you get from abroad, get it easier access, lowering what we have the top tax in Denmark and so on. And right now, when I look into the political negotiations right now in Denmark, it looks like that we will have some success in that way. And then we need an R&D tax cut. We've been arguing for that for many years, and actually I was also arguing for that when I was a minister, and I started the elevator by getting up to 110% when I was the minister, and we aim for 125%. This is because our companies have to stay strong in the international competition, and we need a strong home market, and of course we need a continued powerful teamwork here in the Medicon Valley. All life science begins with research and innovation. A lot of important research happens, of course, in the universities, but it also happens in companies. Therefore, it's important that we have close partnership between the companies and the universities. I went to Israel, and I followed the steps of our Prime Minister here in Denmark. He went to Israel and to Tel Aviv last year, and lots of Danes were wondering why did he go to visit Netanyahu in Israel. He was then the Prime Minister there. And I also went there, and I was visiting the biggest hospital in Israel, and I really had a purpose with my trip. I'm not political right now, I'm just saying I had a purpose. I was visiting the biggest hospital still in the Middle East, just outside of Tel Aviv. And what they did there was that they had a physical location where they invited companies, startups, big companies, also well-known companies you all know, but also startups and the universities and the hospital. And they were forcing the hospital to deliver the data and the universities to cooperate with the companies. So Israel, as you all know, is the startup nation #1. Started after, of course, the Second World War, 48 and so on, with all the military and cyber and so on. But now they're also startup nation #1 into pharmaceuticals, into life science and so on. And that's because of the partnership between startups, big companies, universities, and hospitals. And that's what we also need to look at in Denmark. And that's why we have to have incentives for companies to have R&D. And compared to other countries, we have made a ranking in my organization. Compared to other OECD countries, Denmark is only #9 when we look at the number of new innovative companies and new innovations at the market. And in Denmark, we need to do better. And from my point of view, there's a clear solution to this. If we make research less expensive, we will simply develop more new solutions. Why? Because it will be worth it. We have been fighting for the R&D tax deduction level for a very long time. Actually, it was not 125, but it was 130%. And finally, it seems like the politicians have listened. This is a great result for the whole life science sector in Denmark. But we also need to remove the gap for large companies, so we have a level playing field for all. Also, the Danish government just presented a new life science strategy, and it actually looks very good. But of course, we still need to continue the hard work to secure our own conditions. For example, we still need to do much better in Denmark when it comes to startups. In Sweden, you are doing much, much, much better than we are. And I actually think, because I was also up there as a minister, your politicians actually have figured it out. In my organization, the Danish Chamber of Commerce, we know that we need to make it interesting to create and invest in startups. If it isn't, the startups will escape from our country. And we need to make sure that it's easy for companies to give venture capital and grow. Because right now, if you look at the numbers, we have lots of good ideas in Denmark. I mean, I'm actually the judge in many case competitions around at the universities, and I'm so impressed by all the talents and all the good ideas around. But many startups go abroad, go to other stock markets. And that's why we can see that from the startup to the scale up in Denmark, we really lag behind in Denmark. And we need to improve also the startup framework conditions to get better access to capital, better framework conditions for venture. And also on that scale, we can learn a lot from the Swedes, which have been doing a very good job in that. The tax gains are much better in Sweden. Looking at the capital tax in Sweden, they are much lower than Denmark. 30% in Sweden is on the high level in Denmark, 42%. And we need innovation to tackle all the challenges to have the right framework conditions for startups in Denmark. We also need innovation to tackle the healthcare challenges of today and tomorrow. And that's why we need actually more proactive political efforts. Because we live in this fairy tale country, Denmark, where everything is actually very well. We don't really have the incentive to make the disruption. And that's our storytelling to the politicians, that we have to have better conditions for R&D, better conditions for startups, so we can continue being a fairy tale country. So once again, thank you very much for the invitation to this impressive event. I hope that today's discussions and keynotes will bring you all some good and new insights. And I think that this day shows that we have a very strong Danish-Swedish relationship across the life science sector, where we will continue to help and inspire each other. The Medicon Valley Alliance is doing a very, very good job promoting the collaboration across the bridge, and we highly value our close collaboration. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you will keep doing the very good job, because looking at the political system right now, there's not, unfortunately, my analysis is not a very big interest in closer cooperation between Sweden and Denmark. I've been talking to lots of Swedish business people about this. Actually, just last week, I was talking to my counterpart in Stockholm about this. And in Stockholm, they have no interest in this. And when I've been calling Danish ministers about this, they're interested and they're positive. But it all disappears in discussions about corona, about foreigners, and about open borders. And we need to have the good example so we can show that open borders, exchange of words, exchange of thoughts, innovation and so on, will be beneficial to both Sweden and Denmark. And that's why we need good cases from you. We need good cases from the Medicon Valley Alliance, and that could hopefully also convince the politicians to have a higher priority in the collaboration between Sweden and Denmark. So thank you so much.
Stay here for 2 more minutes, Brian, but I think you really hit the nail on the...
I do whatever you say.
You really hit the nail on the head in your last few comments, and it's really good for us in the room to hear that you're a big fan of Medicon Valley and collaborating across the border. I have a question from the audience. I hope you can answer that.
Is it for my little brother sitting right there?
Oh, is it? Family gathering here. No, we have one from Linn who's actually from Smile Incubator in Lund. And she asked, for your experience, what is the key strength that Sweden and Denmark each bring to the table with regards to regional collaboration and growth?
I mean, combined, we could be an impressive European cluster. So we could attract talents and capital. And our biggest challenge right now is attracting the best talents. And if we really make the cluster between Sweden and Denmark, especially southern Sweden and the Copenhagen area, it could be very interesting for many talents and many startups and much more capital to come to this area. And there shouldn't be any border between us. I mean, what's interesting for the companies is the labor markets, the capital, and the possibility for innovation. So I think that's the biggest strength that we have in together, that together we could really, really be a very strong cluster.
We are stronger together.
Yeah, much more stronger.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time.
Thank you.
One more hand for Brian. And I think that really set the stage for our next speaker, Linn Mandahl, who will talk about the Scandinavian perspective. And Linn has previously held positions in MSD and Takeda Pharmaceuticals and is today the general manager of AbbVie Scandinavia. She is also the vice chairman of LEAF in Sweden and also sits on our board at MVA. So Linn, we look forward to hearing your thoughts on this from a Scandinavian perspective. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So, hi everyone. I'm really glad to be here today. So I am Linn. I'm the general manager, as you heard, for AbbVie Scandinavia. And obviously, as a leader of a Scandinavian affiliate, I spend a lot of my time looking at how we can bring the joint strengths of these three countries together in the way we develop our business, but also how we can increase the attractiveness of the region. And this is not only from internal, but also from an external perspective. So I'm really, really happy, therefore, to be here today. So let me start by mentioning a couple of words on the company that I work for. So we're a global company, and we're represented in 175 countries. We have almost 50,000 employees now since the acquisition of Allergan. We have around 300 employees in Scandinavia, based in with three. Oh, I have the slide here, but not there. Yeah, here it is. Thanks. And the head office is in the US, obviously, in Chicago. And we have 3 offices here in Scandinavia, in the 3 capitals. We have focus areas, both our inline products, but also the pipeline that we're researching is within these fields: eye care, immunology, oncology, virology, and neuroscience. And looking at the science we do, it's extremely important to us. We are a very much research-driven company. We really seek to meet the unmet needs there are. So about 17% annually, on average, over the years, we spend into R&D, and we try to find those innovations that make a difference for people who are affected by conditions where there are really no effective treatment or cure. So transforming lives is really our mission. And if you look at 17% R&D investment of revenues, that's quite high if you compare to industries that are seen normally as research intense, like automobiles or computers. But I'm sure that some of you here represent companies with a far higher number than this. But for AbbVie and other pharmaceutical companies like us, the opportunity to invest and collaborate with academia, healthcare, other private life science companies is really essential. So, of course, a lot of investment goes into external research. So what then about AbbVie Scandinavia? Well, we formed the Scandinavian affiliate from the 3 countries in 2019. And early on, there was a lot of talk about the cultural differences. But, you know, if you look, and I'm sure many of you have seen it before, the world cultural map, we're almost, I would say, identical triplets, aren't we? And as a matter of fact, we're also quite an extreme culture. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Many think we have leadership to export and a lot of other things too. But let's try to keep as much talent as we can here. So then, AbbVie Scandinavia, a lot of our focus is actually on shaping an environment where patients can influence decisions that are made about their treatment journey or their medical journey. So rather making decisions in partnership with patients, and healthcare professionals are there to support. And we really do believe that patients are experts on their own conditions, and you get the best possible treatment outcomes if patients are in the driver's seat. So we embark on a number, continuously on a number of projects where we really try to promote the patient's perspective. But other than that, and developing and providing life-altering medicines, our culture is also very dear to us internally. So we did actually manage this year in 2021 to get a bronze, a silver, and a gold medal in the certification or competition of a Great Place to Work. And we do really get high scores on our employee surveys. So how is this possible? Well, we do have a very conscious and very structured work where we always try to strive for improvement of our culture. So what about our interest in the Nordics or in Medicon Valley? So there are really three things that we look for companies like AbbVie in the global context when we invest and attract capital. So these are world-leading research. We've heard a lot about that already. I think we got a very clear case. But also a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. And finally, maybe not as much mentioned yet today, a strong home market. So if we start by looking at the world-leading research, why is that important? Well, obviously, with this science focus that we do have, we want to collaborate with best researchers in the best research environments in the world. And some of these are, in many areas or several areas, we have the best environments for this in the global context. And this is a true strength when we compete for global investment. And we heard, I think, the number before that we invest, I believe the example was from Sweden, around 3% of GDP in R&D. This is a number from UNESCO. But that's actually true for both Denmark and Sweden. So we are among the top countries, or top 10 countries even worldwide. So this is very, very positive in the Medicon Valley. Then the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. Well, here, just outstanding research isn't really enough. We need to be in a place where we can trust that people and companies and the environments really know what it takes to bring the innovation all the way from the bench to the bedside, that we're willing and capable of really bringing true medical value all the way to society and to the patients when it comes to medicines. So we heard, I think Brian mentioned this, that Denmark is number 9. I still think that's a great thing on the innovation index from INSEAD. Sweden is number 2. So yes, of course, Denmark could grow a bit, but I think we're doing a fine job, or have rather a fine infrastructure, because this is really what it measures, that we have infrastructure that can facilitate and promote research in a positive way. So now I would say it's also up to us to see how we can utilize this great infrastructure to enhance our research and innovation. And we also talked about, I think someone mentioned, the US with great innovative hubs with strong entrepreneur culture. And I think there's definitely potential in Medicon Valley to be a similar force in Europe when we try to build these innovative environments with great entrepreneurship. So the last point then, the strong home market, that's really important to me, who's leading a marketing company, you could say. So, I mean, we are a health industry. We operate globally in a global context. For example, we try and compete with our affiliate friends in other AbbVie affiliates to attract clinical research and clinical trials here to for me, Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark, and so forth. And also other types of collaborations and other types of investments. And if we don't have a local market that allows access for our products and use them for our patients, this is quite challenging, I can tell you. So the sizes, obviously, of our markets are given. But the way we value innovation and how long it takes to get the innovation to market, to use, that's actually critical. And here we definitely have a job to do. So then, what makes Medicon Valley stand out from my perspective, except for the really strong academic research and the great private life sciences sector, from the small startups to the big multinationals? Well, I'd like to talk about two things, really. So one is the healthcare sector, actually, as the basis for clinical trials. So the healthcare sector we take it for granted, it's public. So patients are recorded in the same registries. We have very nice electronic medical records. We have a lot of data that we're sitting on. And the clinical trials in hospitals are really open to all the groups of our population. And this is very different from many other parts of the world where they're also great at clinical research, and it's quite cheap as well. So why is it important with a strong clinical research footprint? Well, for us, as inhabitants here in the Medicon Valley, I'd say that it's two things. Of course, it's important to give patients access to medicines where maybe there is no other hope than a new innovation in the pipeline. But it's also to give knowledge and experience to our healthcare professionals of the latest medical science or research. So that's another thing. And if we really want to have the best healthcare sector and the strongest health industry in the world, we of course should use the newest medicines. Sorry. So we need an environment where the healthcare professionals can perform the research without hurdles. That you can actually, and we talked about, I believe, me and another industry representative in the break, you need to have the possibility, alongside your clinical work as a medical doctor, you also need to be able to do clinical research. This is very important for society, and for me, as a representative for AbbVie, I'd say I really want that to happen here and not in another part of Europe or the world. So I believe that we have a strong potential in the region to attract clinical trials, but what we see sometimes is that we could do more if we join forces across the border. So, for example, if we could initiate clinical trials in only one country, say that only one country is selected by AbbVie for a big multi-center trial, why couldn't we include patients from the other side of Öresund? I think it would be fantastic if we could get access to, and the patients also could get access to the trials, but all the patients living in our region, why couldn't that be possible? So we did start to look at that and discuss a little bit within MVA and some of the stakeholders in this room today, if maybe AbbVie should try to find a study where we can actually have one site, but two countries and two patient pools. So let's see what we can do. I'm pretty sure this is one small thing that could make the ecosystem even more fruitful and would be very beneficial for our region. So the last point I'd like to make really about the strength in the region is about our registries and the data richness. So what we do have is the personal identification numbers. We've talked about that many times, but it's fascinating how much richness or potential is in there, because we can follow patients over time and on so many different parameters. So we can really gather real-life data with extremely high quality if we can just get this data to be accessible in a good way. And to me, real-world data is fascinating because, of course, you can use it for so much science and research, but for a pharma company, it's also important because you can show the value of your products outside a randomized clinical trial. You can see what does this medication do for a certain patient group, but also for the healthcare system. Could it ease the burden on the healthcare system? And then ultimately, does it bring to society? But here I believe there's still a lot of work to be done. And to sort of round off, we've talked about already today some of the hurdles, and I would like to talk or emphasize really the exchange of data. But of course, we also need, as Brian said, the movement of workers to be facilitated. We want to attract the right capabilities and competencies. And there are many good initiatives in place. I hope for more and more new incentives to be introduced. And we did actually meet. A number of MVA members got the opportunity to meet Anna Hallberg, who's the Minister of Foreign Trade in Sweden, but also a minister with the responsibility for Nordic collaboration. We met her recently, and we made a number of proposals and a wish list for her, and I must say she was very receptive. She can see the potential in our region, and I think there's reason to be hopeful. She could be one of those who help us take a number of steps forward. So I hope for progress to be made, and I do believe, as you hear, in the very much in the potential of joining the forces in Medicon Valley. And I'm very glad that an association like MVA exists. So we have the big challenge, all of us in society, with our aging population. We need to keep people healthy and living for as long as possible, and also be part of the workforce for as long as possible. And this is really what we try to do in our industry, or all of us together, I would say. We need to find solutions and treatments for conditions without a cure or an effective treatment. And we can definitely not do that alone. This mission cannot be done alone. We need to collaborate between academia, the private sector, the healthcare systems, but I think we should also take the opportunity to do this across borders. So sharing our data, experiences, building a very close collaboration, and build something much stronger and better than we can do each party alone, each country alone. So I really love the aim of the MVA to lift the perspectives across these borders. So many thanks again for letting me speak here today.
Thank you so much, Linn. I think you echoed a lot about what Brian said on the need to be in a borderless region, both in terms of physical borders, but also being able to have clinical trials and new collaborations in one region, not two countries. We don't have a lot of time for questions, but I'm going to ask two very quick ones, if you could briefly comment.
Yes.
The first one is about, we've talked a little bit about how we need to develop more startups in the region. And one question is, how do you, as AbbVie Scandinavia, regionally collaborate with the startup innovation space here? And do you have advice to researchers and entrepreneurs on how they could approach a company like AbbVie?
I wouldn't say that we have the advice on how to approach us in a structured way. So that's just send us an email. It's very simple. But we do have our strategy office in the US, and they have people across the globe. So we have a specific organization or team aimed for our part of Europe. And it's very easy to get in touch with them, either through big partnering days like we've done, hosted by or arranged by the MVA, but it's very easy to get in contact with our scouts who are responsible for the first steps of the licensing journeys or partnership journeys.
Send an email.
Yeah, send an email. It's very simple.
Last question, brief comment. This is a big question.
And they're good at follow-up. I should say.
It's recorded, remember, so Linn's word is... Okay. One last question. What impediments are there for the typical patient in accessing clinical trials across the borders from your experience in AbbVie? Is it cost, travel, infrastructure, insurance incompatibilities? Big question, brief comment. We will touch on it later today. But
I know that many in this audience know this more in detail and by their own personal experience, but I'd say that's actually really... things that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, there's no manual for how to do this. It could be something around insurance. It could be something about invoicing and how costs are transferred. But I wouldn't say that those are real hurdles. I'm convinced when we looked into it, it feels like all of these things can actually be solved. So it's more a matter of sorting that out. I think a good expert team should look into it carefully with preferably political support. And once they come to this, I think you can definitely create processes and potentially an agreement between Sweden and Denmark that could finalize the last details. But I really think it's not rocket science, but someone needs to have the time and the energy.
Someone needs to take the lead and drive it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
We will come back to this later today, but thank you so much, Linn, for your time once again.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you've all had a lot of food for thought, and it's soon time for coffee. But before I let you go, I would like to prepare our minds to the next part of our program. We're going to talk about funding and investment, which is always a really interesting topic. But what I'd like you to do is, if you have your phones up in the Q&A part of the platform, we have a little poll for you that we will use to reflect on some of the discussions later on today. And could I ask the technical team to bring up the poll? It's in your platform, in the Q&A section. And I would like you to answer one of these options. Beside the need for funding, which resource do we lack the most in Medicon Valley region? Access to talents, innovative ideas, academic collaboration partners, or research infrastructure. You won't see the results yet. I'll reveal it after the break in the next section. Make sure you respond. And once you've responded, you're welcome to go out for coffee and for mingling. And I'll see you back here at 2:30. Welcome.